Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. This is Daniel Patrick Brennan. This is the Wine is Food podcast, and I am in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA, with Keith Wallace. How you doing, Keith?
Yeah, Dan, I'm doing fantastic.
So I've done this podcast with some winemakers, wine growers, and some one guy I did who was a viticulture research guy. I would say Keith is a bit of a renaissance man who's done some production stuff, and he does a lot of different things. But I think this is definitely going to be somebody who's a little bit different behind the scenes, because I think all the Wine is Food interviews are people that are behind the scenes and affect what wine ends up coming to you. And Keith, in that sense, we'll get to it. But you've done a lot of different things in your career, right?
You know, I've done a kind of a fuckload of shit. It's one of those things where, yeah, Renaissance, I don't know, but it is.
I mean, Renaissance man would insist that you are cultured in some way.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that because and anyone who actually has ever taken class from me knows that I am not cultured. I mean, I use analogies about human excrement to make references to anything. And in that, I'm not.
Well, that's a perfect segue. No, I don't want to segue from that. But
Yeah.
basically what I was saying is, so you are, the way that I know Keith is you are the owner and founder of the Wine School of Philadelphia, which the website is vinology.com, vinology.com, reading your beautiful handwriting. And I started, when I was running my family's restaurant in Philadelphia, I started going to school at the wine school, taking sort of casual classes, and then I did one of the degree programs there, or diploma programs. I met Keith, and Keith was the guy who, when I started thinking about, I really want to do this, I didn't want to go in the sommelier sort of direction. I said, I really want to be involved in production and do it. And I said, Keith, what does that mean? What does it take? And Keith said, chemistry. And I never forget that, because I went, damn it.
Yeah.
So
that's the hurdle we all have to get through.
But you did some work. Did you say you did some harvest in France or
Oh,
California?
Yeah. Oh, I actually did more than that. Because being what I do now, running a school, and I've and a lot of what I do is teaching now. I have teach at Drexel and at some things at Penn, but mostly at the wine school, and training people who become winemakers or sommeliers and blah blah blah, whatever else. But my background really was actually way back in the day, actually doing full scale production, designing and developing programs in largely just large scale winemaking production. That was what I did first. I wasn't. And here's the thing: the reality is that I was a chef before that, and I was a journalist after that. And I was very good at both, but I wasn't great. And that's the same thing as a winemaker. I was very good technically, but I wasn't a great. I was never, and I met far too many people who were better than I was. And so, it ended up being the one thing that I was badass at, the thing that I could say, okay, I can do this, and I can bring this home for the rest of my life. It was actually teaching. And everyone has that joke, those who
I didn't want to say it, but you kind of led into it.
It is, and it's honestly, truly, I'm sadly sad to say, as I'm that dude, I can teach. I am decent in it, so I can write books. And I've written. Well,
you're a good writer. I've read your stuff. You're a very good writer. So
and let's do a plug.
Yes.
Corked and Forked came out last year, bestseller. It's a cookbook and a wine pairing book.
So you were working on that.
Yep.
I visited you last time. We did a little tasting at the
That's
wine
right.
school here.
Yes.
Which, by the way, lovely space here, right off of Rittenhouse Square in Philadelphia. If anybody in the Philadelphia area is coming through and you want to feel real classy, stop into the wine school. And it's just one of these really cool old row homes that, you said it used to be another office or something here before?
Actually, this used to be this right here is where running press.
They can't see this, Keith.
I know. They can't see this?
No.
Look, I'm putting my microphone around. They can see this. They're not blind, right? I'm sorry if I'm insulting any blind people out there. But no, it's actually an old, beautiful row home. It was at one point the offices for Running Press, which published in the mid-'90s all the Wine Spectator books, but also all of Michael Jackson's books. Not the pedophile, the actual the beer drinking dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
unfortunate name these days.
Yeah,
to have.
yeah, it's like anyone named Sandusky. It's like, oh my God, it's
shame.
like if your middle name is if you really want to fuck up your child, like middle name Sandusky, last name Hitler.
Yeah,
I mean Michael Sandusky Hitler
or
would
just
actually
put,
be. Yeah.
I got to be honest. We saw Penn State. A bumper sticker the other day, and we just went, "Oh, it's a shame." It's a shame that everybody's associated with
it. It is. But I actually see once in a while see some dude with a Penn State T-shirt. I'm like, that takes balls. I gotta give you credit. I give you credit. That's some pride, and I look, I mean.
But needless to say, the wine school is not affiliated with Penn State University. When you said Penn, you were talking about the University of Pennsylvania, which is a totally different entity.
Completely. Yes.
And I would say one of the finest schools in the land.
It's all right.
Be careful, because I think they own about 3/4 of the city these days.
They do,
so.
and yes, they do actually, and part of my paycheck. But yes.
So anyway, you just released a book that you were working on last time I was here, and that was called, what did you say it was called?
It's Corked and Forked.
Corked and Forked.
It's a cookbook and a wine and beverage pairing guide. It's just a fun, very breezy read. It was designed more for people who know nothing about food or wine to be able to do fun, enjoyable things that were different and unique. But it's just a fun book. It's nothing serious, but it's things like this that I get to do now. I get to teach and I get to write. And which is, for me, and consult, which is the most enjoyable thing, because I really don't have to do anything. I just have to sound like I'm really, really smart and telling people what to do, which is actually a very enjoyable position to be in. But that's what But
sure, I think a lot of winemakers' dream is to be a consultant. And just
say,
yes.
Yeah.
You should bring in your fruit that is really ripe and tastes great. That's the first thing you should do.
You should sort that shit.
Yes.
So.
And then you also are the buyer and sort of a national buyer and coordinator and consultant and full-blown guy for Bacchus Selections, which is a retail internet-based wine.
Yeah, now it's a new national online retailer that is I've been brought in to help develop their sales and everything. Just coming from a much more to go away from like the wine. It's not a wine deal place. It's actually more about exclusive small production lots. And so we may only sell. You may only be able to get 1 or 2 bottles of anything. Some lots are going to be we'll have 200 cases, but some lots we're negotiating. We might only have like a case, or even I just was on the phone a little while ago with a dude who's actually selling some old Bordeaux. Some of these are like 1 or 2 bottle lots, which are we got a great price for them, but it's tiny.
Yeah,
and it's but that's what we're gonna do. Small allocations of obscure shit that's really delicious. So like you're never gonna see like Stag's Leap. Like I will never fucking sell Stag's Leap on that or Select that because everyone knows it, everyone can buy it, and I want. Wine is supposed to be something enjoyable, interesting, and creative.
Yeah.
And there's so many winemakers out there. I mean, you included. That are doing interesting stuff that are kind of crazy, and but doing it on small scale. The crazy is usually big scale, but the wine is usually small scale, and that is what I love about this industry. I don't like the generic shit that like walking into a wine shop and you can find any bottle that you can find anywhere else. It's like that's no fun.
Yeah.
Why spend $20 on that when you can spend $20 on something that's actually?
I think the funnest thing is when you find that $15 wine that nobody's heard of, and they go, "Oh shit, this is awesome!" And
exactly. Especially when it comes down to the world is so big, and is that you and maybe another 5,000 people in the world know about this bottle of wine and have enjoyed it sometime in their lifetime. And that's fine. That's good. And someone could be like someone like you, Dan. Who's a small winemaker doing something interesting, who's an interesting dude, who's a freaking Philadelphian making wine in New Zealand. I mean, how insane is that? And you do good. And here's the reality, tying in beforehand was that, before you started rolling, or whatever it is with radio, I was there being a consultant, Dan, you've changed your oak regimen. And you're like, yeah, you're dick. So, I get to do that now because I'm the instructor. I'm on high.
That's
just
right.
Doling out all these valuable nuggets to the people who
Well, I think that's
it.
one of the main reasons why I wanted to talk to you as somebody sort of behind the scenes, was not only to talk to the general public, but I talk to so many winemakers.
Yes.
And for somebody that is in a position who affects, what people see when they get our product. So as a producer, it's very interesting to talk to you to say, hey, what do you think I'm doing? Do you like this wine that I'm doing, or do you like wines from this region, or do you like this style wine? And I think it's sort of interesting there's so many guys who are talented winemakers and horrible marketers, or horrible accountants,
Yes.
or horrible at other things that are part of the industry, and a lot of times these great wines don't reach the public because they're screwing something up.
Yeah, that's typical.
Whether that's maybe you shouldn't. Hopefully, it's not. You shouldn't be growing this kind of wine in that region, and more of it's like, hey, maybe you should make a different style that's a little more affordable, or you should try doing this style wine, and so. I don't know. That's kind of a very broad question to ask you, but overall, if you were to look at maybe California or New Zealand and say, what would you say to producers there that you think it's getting better or worse, or do you think some people or producers do you think some people are missing the boat on certain things?
Well, they always are. And this is all joking aside, and is that one of the key pieces of what I do is I am that translator on both ends, like talking to people why certain wines matter, but then also talking with producers like why they are missing the boat, or what they're doing, or why they should change certain things if they want to hit certain kinds of marketplaces. And that is always, why do people drink certain things and not others? There's always missing the boat, and this is right now, because the things that are happening is the people are becoming more interested in different things. It's the United Americans, we're talking about specifically Americans, and specifically, especially on the East Coast, the wine culture is growing by leaps and bounds past anyone else, past anything is even happening on the West Coast. The wine drinking population are willing to spend more money now, even though we're in a recession. What people are willing to spend is ratcheting up and up and up for more and more interesting things. And I think a lot of winemakers right now are actually sort of tucking in for this long haul, because it is happening. There's a lot of difficult times. All of us know. I mean that there are places just going out of business. And trying to that I'm dealing with. And trying to working with, especially in California, a number of negotiants are having really difficult times. But one of the things that is is the experimentation that American wine buyers are willing to go to find something new and unique, and especially in Rhone varietals, except for Syrah, which for whatever reason is most likely largely due to it's hard to fathom why such a noble, amazing grape you can't sell it for shit in this country, and it's sad because it's one of my personal favorites. Well, give me a freaking New Zealand Syrah. I mean, and I will. I will mainline that. I mean, I will actually, I'll just throw it right to the jugular. I love that shit. And I can never buy it. It doesn't exist in this market. And if, and when I'm, as a buyer, we talked about this before, I'm not going to buy it, for just try to sell it, because I know I'm going to lose. As a buyer or for the school, I will buy it. I'll buy cases of it, but I can't, but as but in the wholesale market, you just can't sell it. It's just hard. So things like this, but however, Rhone varietals are doing remarkably well right now, and it's become this much bigger place. Pinot, of course, is, but that's going to break pretty soon. And I think part of what it is that really, there are 3 different marketplaces, and most times people are looking for, trying to sell as much wine as possible. And sometimes that's really, for the first couple of years, it may not be, you may not want that specific market, especially the deal-seeking market, unless you are able to really ratchet up production. And for small wineries, that's oftentimes a fool's game. You can't sell, $10 bottles of wine You can't and make money. You know, people try and they fail because it's just such a saturated market. So like, people are chasing after those right now, like those less and less return, and that's unfortunate. That's something I've been seeing a lot with some clients and some folks in the trade who I have relationships with. That they're afraid, and right now it's actually surprisingly though, wine buyers are actually willing to spend more, and winemakers don't know that.
Yeah,
and that's unfortunate. But this is the thing: is you're right about is the winemakers should suck at everything except for making wine. How can you be good at everything? People. There needs to be somebody. And I find that personally myself is that I suck at most parts of my job except for teaching. I've had to hire people to actually do the other parts.
Yeah, I really need to having a good accountant.
Oh God, yes. Oh, I fuck myself so bad not having a good accountant. But yeah. As a rule of thumb, yes. Just using Quicken is not really a good way to run a business.
No,
just
no.
FYI. Just
Yeah.
FYI. It's you are gonna pay more. In the end, and get totally fucked.
Oh, but going back to what you said about Syrah, once again, I must mention we have producer du jour, James, brother James in the house. He was at our last recording as well. So, but going back to what you're saying about Syrah, I was talking to a guy down at Charleston Grill, which is in that real famous hotel down in Charleston, South Carolina. I think it's called the Charleston, but I'm not positive. But he made a good point. He said, same thing you said. I love Syrah. I wish I could find more. I love New Zealand Syrah. I wish I could find more. I don't understand. It just seems to be this anomaly. He said, I think I have the solution, though, that the people who produce Syrah should go to Hollywood and ask them to make a movie about Syrah being this romantic, awesome grape, and backtrack, go that way rather than wait for a movie to come out about Syrah. He said maybe they should do the same thing for Riesling as well. Maybe a movie about a red and a white for Riesling and Syrah. And I thought that's a great idea. We should get together and talk to some big Hollywood people.
Oh, well, that'd be pretty sweet, actually.
I know one of the guys who makes It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but I have a feeling that wouldn't turn out to be really beneficial for us.
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe Rob can do something.
No, it would end up being something like the Syrah Felchers or something. I'm not sure what that would be. Oh, dude, yeah, that would not be pretty. That would actually, yes, that would not be.
Do you have the same issues with Riesling as well? Or is that a little bit better because of the sort of summer Riesling and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, it's a hard, like for sales wise and for for people with just generally knowledge. The American market was trained, 2 generations ago that Riesling was cheap and sweet.
Yeah.
So New Zealand, or even like most German Rieslings are, which are austere and beautiful and mineral and just magical little bottles of wine. That could be the name of the movie, Magical Bottles of Wine. It's Riesling, it's Riesling. It's happy, it's fun, it's light. Riesling.
That's like we got a preview of the movie right there.
Right there, yeah, exactly. And look, it's going to happen. So the buying population expects this sweet and cheap shit, and when they don't get it, they're pissed. And people looking for dry, austere aren't looking for Riesling. So it's an education issue. And this country is so big now and there's so many wine drinkers that these bad ideas are harder and harder to. You can't defeat them. They're only in small places. And it's a really hand sell. Like when one of the things I used to do is I actually was a co-owner of a small wine distributor, and I got all of my markets in Delaware, got them convinced that Riesling was badass, great stuff, and didn't have to be, sweet. And so I made massive inroads in Riesling, and to this day, Delaware is actually a very Riesling friendly, but it's a small place.
Yeah, and it's not big.
That's not big. It's. I mean, the state
Congrats,
is
though, on defeating Delaware with Riesling.
Yeah, with Riesling, that is one of my claim to fame. And at this wine school too, like for all of our one-on-one classes, the first thing I always do is show them a bottle of, usually it's New Zealand Riesling actually, and I show them and say, and because of course it has a screw top cap, and I said, see, and I looked at anyone, and this is a class we've done like 3 or 4 times a week, so this is like a class we do hundreds and hundreds of these classes, same class, and every class we start off say, with this bottle of Riesling, screw top, say, what is this? And invariably, the response is cheap and sweet. No matter who we ask, no matter what, they always say cheap and sweet. And then we pop it open, and boom, holy shit, it's neither cheap nor sweet. It's a badass fucking wine. Mm-hmm. And that is, so this is like something, one of those main issues that I have with like defeating those stereotypes. And that's thing that winemakers tend to not realize, that they're actually not necessarily making wine for an audience. They're also, there is that element of assumption that's made by the buyer. And you can make the most badass Riesling, and you can actually piss off your clients, because if they think if something on that label is identifying that it's sweet, and they buy that, they're gonna be pissed.
Yeah.
But you could be a badass wine, someone I would love, but you have to know who the audience is, and really transmit and relate that information. And looking at actually a very good example is a lot of the in Oregon, a lot of the Willamette Valley producers are very good at marketing their Riesling, especially actually Argyle does, to translate what by the label, the coloring, and the language that they use, that it's not a that it's more of a it's closer to a Spätlese or like a very ripe Cabernet style of Riesling, but.
Do they they have those German words on there?
No. I'm using the inside language for our friends, on the interwebs, who know everything and I'm sure understand
well, it's only experts who listen to this podcast.
Oh, hell yeah.
But that's why there's only 5 people that listen, so.
Yeah, well, yeah, and one of them is actually your mom, so.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Wait a minute,
and now apparently another one is now it's going to be 6 because my mom is going to be listening now too. Yeah,
it's always good to have that support.
It is. Oh, hell yeah. She's pretty badass.
I think we talked about the other 2 things. What I always, got the big hype for the release of Epicure magazine. So tell us a bit about that.
Okay, this is something that we're doing building slow. Because actually the actual Epicure magazine hasn't been released yet, except in beta form. Right now, web, all handhelds, Kindle, and we're already hitting a membership of 20,000 people, which was actually more than I wanted in the beginning, to be honest, because that demands a certain level of professionalism that I wasn't expecting to have to, engage in this early on, because officially it doesn't really launch until January. But it's primarily for nationally and internationally wine and beer reviews, very, very straightforward, solid reviews of what's really, really good out there, and also what kind of sucks, and that's the primary focus. But for people in Philadelphia, they get served, or they will be starting to get served restaurant reviews and food reviews, much more localized information. So say if you were coming from, or you were pulling it up from on your iPad or whatnot, you would get the information you'd get if you were in New Zealand is just wine reviews. But if you're in Philadelphia, what you would get is you'd be getting restaurant reviews as well, and local commentary as well. So we're introducing that, and most likely what we'll do is once we actually continue that with it's very transparent. You won't even, depending on where you are, you won't even realize that you're being shown certain kind of information that's relevant to you. And then we're going to expand that. We're already in discussions with a few folks in Boston and New York to actually expand the restaurant and food writing that we're going to be doing. And the other issue that we're going to be starting with the Epicure, we're launching actually with a contest, and it's going to be the best food, wine, and beer writers in Philadelphia. And
I was going to just ask, if you're launching in other cities, obviously you got to get some local peeps up there helping.
Exactly. And
so it's a big networking sort of project
It is. And the main reason I'm doing it is largely because I already have a very, the Wine School of Philadelphia, which is, we have a very, very large viewership. I mean, we have one of the largest, it's one of the largest wine sites in the world, surprisingly, but most people are going there. I mean, they're not in Philly, so there's nothing there for them, and they.
Yeah, well, I've met 2 different people in the wine industry.
Yeah.
That have gone to your school.
Yeah, I know,
They're like, wait, you're from Philly? They're like, yeah, I'm from the PA suburbs, or I'm from Jersey. And they're like, what? And then, I ended up at Keith once. I was like, yeah, I went to that school too. Yeah. And he's the one who told me to go to California and drop all my shit and move out of it. moved to wine country. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, well, it is kind of funny. I mean, that is the thing is that, I've been very successful in getting people to follow their dreams and do shit, that they wouldn't otherwise do.
Well, I like the fact
Yeah.
that when I talked to you about it, it was like, you were like, it's chemistry. You sure you want to
Yeah,
go?
yeah,
You're like,
exactly,
I'm like, okay, I'm going to
Oh,
look
yeah,
into this.
yeah.
And then you were actually
Yeah.
one of the first guys. I mean, I told you before I told some of my family that I was leaving because I was
Yeah,
like,
I know. You told me not to say anything.
Yeah, I said, don't say anything. Yeah, and you're like, and that's a tough thing for you to do, I know, to keep your mouth shut. So.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, no, it's yeah.
So, but we the one particular one was you connected me with Jenny Schultz, who's now the enologist at Three Sticks. I don't know if you knew she got a new job. I visited her when I was just in California on my way passing through in July, and she's doing fantastic. But I met her, so it was really weird. I met her for the first time in Hawke's Bay, New Zealand, when she was doing harvest at Church Road. She stopped by Unison to say hello, and I mean, she's a rising star, man. I've seen her.
Oh, yeah.
She's doing really well, and I'm actually going to be doing harvest at Girard this year, and our back doors are like right across the road from each other.
That's right.
So we're both in that.
Jenny. My favorite story about Jenny was that the first time she was in my class, so she was actually we used to do a vineyard management class, and I stopped doing it largely because like half the people ended up with heat stroke every year. But Jenny was there and it was one day she came in and she was just hungover to hell. She was really young at that time. She's like 22. And I've never seen anyone like that hungover in a vineyard ever. And I thought she was gonna die. I actually, God, it was the funny. But yeah, she's badass. She actually managed to pull an entire day and 90 plus heat.
That's when you know you can do it.
Yeah,
if you can do
exactly.
It. You can do it on that's where the passion is.
Yeah,
you know you can do it. So.
Yeah. So I do. Yeah, and from then on, she's actually been. And there's a number of folks. In everyone. It's weird at this place. I'm very happy. We're like 10 years on into running the school. New Zealand, New Jersey, California. I mean, I have I have winemaking students. Students who came through the school and ended up being either winemakers or owning wineries everywhere now. I mean, it's pretty badass. I mean, I love it. I mean, they didn't get to where they are because of me. They found me to help them find their way. Because one thing I can do is actually read through the bullshit and and guide people. Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I actually one who was she was actually the enologist at a I'm not going to say exactly which one because so I don't divulge who she is. Like basically, I told her to dump her husband and follow her dream. That's
great.
She was also blonde and kind of hot too.
Yeah,
so.
there's some other. Like, what are you doing with that jerk?
Yeah, exactly. So
So you kind of mentioned it in what you were just saying before. I was going to ask you about some of the local producers that are. I sent Keith an email. I said, hey, man, I want to check out a few guys. I ended up talking to, which by the time people hear this, they will have heard the podcast with Todd down at Hawk Haven. And thank you because awesome wines, great dude, like really cool story in Cape May and really easy guy to talk to and very humble, but really exciting. I mean, the guy's taken on huge challenges, 13 varietals he's doing, and seems to be, but I mean, that's great for local wines for somebody to say, hey, well, we're not just going to try 2 or 3. We're going to try a bunch and then maybe narrow it down later and see how they go. But everything we tasted was very, very well done. Yeah,
he has an innate skill. I mean, that's one of those rare people who can just do it.
Yeah. He's farming background, but the winemaking side was dead on.
And this is something that this is something for me is actually like within the last year, and I'm actually gonna be writing about this. I'm gonna be starting a series of articles for a large local regional magazine called it's actually the Philly Beer Scene, which is a great magazine for beer drinkers, but they've asked me to be their token wine guy. Mm-hmm. And, so about local winemakers, actually doing like a day in the life of, and just basically hanging out, shooting skeet, shooting
shooting
vermin, shooting the shit, and, and getting drunk and generally behaving badly. But as we do. But for me, figuring out that like Pennsylvania and actually and New, specifically Southern Jersey was doing some really amazing stuff was only very recently. I mean, you asked me 2 years ago, I'd be like, even though I have actually worked in production in Pennsylvania, most of it sucks. So most of it sucks so bad that it's ridiculous. There's some gems. There's some things. Some people are actually doing some interesting things, but for all my rate, there's a really significant lack of quality control, or just giving a shit.
Yeah, we found a really good producer. What was the name of the winery? I can't believe I'm forgetting. That I brought in from Pennsylvania for that one tasting at McCrossen's out near Lancaster. They were 10 generations of farmers.
Yes.
Really, their winery was pristine. They had great oak regimen. Everything was really well done, and I feel terrible that I'm forgetting who it is right now. Yeah. But
there are, and that's the thing, is that there are these amazing things.
Waltz.
Yes. They are actually. Yeah, they do have a significantly good production. But yeah, that's actually. But NPR, I got a phone call from like the local NPR affiliate, maybe about a year ago, and they wanted me, to do a France versus
New Jersey.
So I started looking at this and started trying, like calling up a friend of mine, an old former student, is actually a winemaker in Jersey now. So I call him up and say, who's outside of yourself? Who are the rising stars? What should I be bringing in? Trying them and then like visit and like seeing what they're doing, and then realizing that there are really like some remarkably, like the fruit is healthier than I've ever seen. Like I've never seen, like there's all of a sudden there's this jump in quality, like this whole area, this whole, like from Southern Jersey through the Brandywine Valley, there's real significant bellwether in the last couple of years that I wasn't, I had sort of written off a lot of it because there was a lot of bad habits, but these seem to have changed. So this is the thing, coming from someone who actually was really negative about it, is really seeing some really significant changes and significant quality fruit coming in that, this whole area is a running joke when it comes to winemaking. Everyone makes fun of it. Everyone here in Philly and its surrounding areas just are very dismissive. But what's happening right now is actually very exciting. People like Todd are leading the way. People who really don't have training, who are learning as they go, and like Sean at Heritage as well, or like in Almathea Cellars, even some of their they're using some of these beautiful old school clones of Cabernet that are amazing. They're doing significant stuff. Fruit's healthy. These things are changing dramatically here. So I'm very happy. I'm very happy to see something that's growing. And FYI, it was actually, in a double blind tasting with some significantly good French wines. 1 out of 3 winners was actually from New Jersey, which was pretty nuts.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I wasn't expecting that. I actually was expecting 0 out of 3.
Yeah.
But hey, that's significant.
Oh, that's great. It's leaps and bounds of what
Yeah.
it was, and I think they definitely have an uphill battle, but they seem to be getting local support and a lot of tasting room sales and things like that. But it'll probably be a while before restaurants and stuff like that catch on. But
10 years.
I mean, I'm totally supportive of it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah,
Like I love. We're going to go bring a bottle of this Virginia wine from this producer called Veritas, who I interviewed Emily before. I'm going to bring they make an awesome Viognier. I'm going to bring it down.
That is, actually, they do a really good Viognier. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to bring it down and taste it blind with a friend of mine in a minute. And,
fuck yeah.
And just to, set her knock her off her stool for a second,
Well, and that's the thing is actually, but the one thing about Virginia that they actually have a lot of backing by the state.
Yeah, and they have Virginia Tech right there, and Zeklin and those guys
and
helping.
There's money there for, there's money for research, there's money being given. And Pennsylvania doesn't have that. Jersey has some of it, and and I've been that's the other thing that I do is I have significant amount of friends in politics as well because
because you're a dirty man.
I'm a dirty. No, there's a fuckload of lawyers who come through here. A fuckload of lawyers. I mean, Christ's sakes, I could do anything. I come from a family of ministers, and like half of my students are lawyers. I could do anything. I could kill a busload of nuns, and I would get off and go to heaven. My entire family would pray for me, and all my friends would actually, would line up, get me out of jail. So yeah. So I am
Well,
invincible.
Don't do that, Keith, though. Just
No?
for
No, okay.
society's sake. Don't just to prove a point that you're... Finally, I'm untouchable.
Yeah, yeah. I gotta say, actually, in the current environment, no, I am actually joking. This is a joke. This is a joke.
Yeah, just hope nothing happens to a nun in the next year or two.
I know. I'll have the ATF on my great. I know. I might end up on a no-fly list. I might end up having to go to France by boat.
Yeah, that's fine. They're not going to care about you there. I don't know. I think we might leave it there for now. We covered a lot of different stuff.
That's a lot of stuff, yeah.
That was we did 35 minutes there, so that's pretty good. I'd like to come back and check in with you again, maybe in January if I can get your time. I know you're a busy man doing all this different stuff, but I'm going to go out and do harvest again. I'll come through and maybe around the holidays, and if we can sneak something in, catch up with well, by then, it sounds like you'll have even more going on. So
yeah, but January's a good time. January, because that's it's after the holidays.
Yeah,
that's a very good time. We can go. We can drink. We can get drunk. We can talk.
Well, we're drinking right now.
Oh yeah,
not enough.
Not enough. Yeah, I know. Oh man, I had 2 beers from lunch.
Cool. Well, I want to mention the website again is Venology.com for anybody in the Philly area. And I don't know, geez. New Jersey.
One last thing.
Yes, do your plugs.
We just got Best of Philly for the second time. Just got announced last week.
For which category?
Best of Philly. I'm
Education?
best.
Or you invented
best adult education.
That seemed okay. Good.
Yeah, for everything. So yeah.
I thought you were going to say best adult store or something like that.
That would be fun too. Yes. Yeah. No. Could you imagine the
I don't know
phone
if
calls I would
there
get?
was a back room to this place somewhere with a gimp in it or something. Anyway, you won't find any of that at Venology.com, Vinology.com. Check out Bacchus Selections online for some cool wines, Epicure Magazine for some great information, and, of course, great information on wine and food in the area, and hopefully New York and Boston soon. And, again, we're talking about local wines in the New Jersey, Pennsylvania area. Check out Riesling in Delaware. Check out and stop on into the posh Rittenhouse Square classroom here at the Wine School of Philadelphia. And Keith, thanks for doing this.
Wow, my pleasure.
Look forward to catching up with you soon. Say hello to everybody in Radio Land and iTunes and New Zealand and Pakistan and everywhere else where people are listening. And cheers, man.
Rock on. Cheers.